My name is Cora Sterling. For as long as I can remember, my life has been measured in columns and rows, in the careful balancing of accounts and the quiet satisfaction of a budget met. I find a certain peace in the logic of numbers. They don't lie, they don't have ulterior motives, and they tell a story of effort and consequence that is refreshingly clear. This love for order is what led me to a career as a financial analyst, and it's what allowed me, at the age of 31, to finally stand in a home that was entirely my own. A quiet two-story craftsman on a street lined with aging maple trees in the small city of Northwood. The morning sun streams through my kitchen windows, casting long rectangles across the hardwood floor, where half-unpacked moving boxes still wait. They're monuments to a future I am carefully, deliberately building. I grip a warm ceramic coffee mug in one hand and sort through my mail with the other, a simple ritual I'm trying to establish to anchor myself in the newness of it all. The certified letter sits apart from the stack of junk mail and local flyers, its official green and white markings making my stomach clench with an unidentifiable dread. When I tear open the heavy paper envelope, the world, which had just begun to feel so steady, stops turning. Robert and Margaret Sterling versus Cora Sterling. My coffee mug slips from numb fingers, shattering against the floor in a spray of porcelain and dark liquid. The bitter aroma of French roast fills the air as the coffee seeps into the pale grout between tiles. My hands begin to tremble, the legal papers wavering before my eyes. A single line jumps out from the dense, stark black text, a demand that feels like a physical blow, immediate transfer of property and $250,000 in damages for emotional distress and breach of familial duty. My own parents are suing me. 2 weeks earlier, I had stood in this same kitchen, the air thick with the smell of fresh paint and possibility, signing a mountain of closing papers on my $385,000 home. It was the first truly significant purchase of my life, the culmination of a dream I'd harbored since I was a teenager. The real estate agent, a kind woman named Mrs. Finch, had beamed as she handed me the keys, her smile genuine. "You did this completely on your own, Cora," she'd said, her voice warm with respect. That's something to be truly proud of. That night, I'd celebrated alone with a container of spicy pad thai from a local place and a bottle of Prosecco I'd been saving since my last promotion. I wandered through the empty rooms, my footsteps echoing softly on the bare floors. I mentally placed the furniture I'd carefully budgeted for over the past year, mapping out each space that was finally, irrevocably mine. This would be my reading nook. That corner would hold the antique desk my grandmother left me. The backyard, with its sprawling oak tree, would be perfect for a small garden. Later, I propped my phone on a stack of boxes for our weekly video call. "Look at this, Grandpa Leo," I'd said, panning my phone around the spacious living room, the late evening light turning the walls a soft, hopeful gold. I did it. His eyes, framed by the familiar wrinkles of a life well lived, had welled up with a pride that felt more validating than any professional accolade. "You sure did, sweetheart," he'd said, his voice thick with emotion. "You sure did." The first sign that something was wrong, that my joy was not a shared currency within my immediate family, came immediately after I announced the purchase to my parents. Their faces on the video call were tight, their smiles thin and uncomfortable. My younger sister, Lila, hovered in the background of their pristine living room, a designer handbag I knew cost more than my first car payment dangling from her arm. "How many bedrooms?" my mother had asked, her voice brittle, as if she were inquiring about a potential liability. "3, I'd answered, trying to keep the excitement in my own voice. "And a nice, big yard for a dog someday." "That's quite a purchase for someone your age," my father said, his jaw working as if chewing on an unpleasant thought. It was his, evaluating a risky investment, look. Lila leaned into the frame then, her perfectly highlighted hair falling forward. "Must be nice to have that kind of money to just throw around," she'd murmured, a familiar note of passive accusation in her tone. My mother's eyes darted to her, a flicker of something, pity, allegiance, passing between them. "You know your sister has been having a rough time lately, Cora. Creatively." I should have recognized the warning signs then, the subtle shift in the family's tectonic plates. But I was so buoyed by my own achievement that I let it slide, attributing it to their usual dynamic. Nothing could have prepared me for their ambush a week later. "We need to discuss a family matter," my father said, his face filling my phone screen. He was using his business tone, the one he reserved for difficult conversations with underperforming employees. My mother was beside him, dabbing at her eyes with a pristine tissue, a prop she often used to signal the gravity of a situation. "We've always put family first, haven't we, Cora?" she began, her voice quavering with practiced emotion. "We've always supported each other in our times of need. Your sister needs stability more than you do right now," my father continued, cutting to the chase. "She has plans for that house. Creative plans, a community art space. It would be a huge benefit to her career. You can keep renting your apartment. It's perfectly adequate." I stared at them, the words not quite connecting into a coherent thought. It felt like a scene from a badly written play. "This is my house," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I worked for this. I saved for this. Lila can earn her own house." "Don't be so selfish, Cora," my mother snapped, the fragility gone, replaced by a cold blade of anger. "Family helps family. That's the end of it." The certified letter, I now realize, must have been mailed the very next day. As I stand in my ruined kitchen, the smell of coffee and disbelief hanging heavy in the air, I read through the documents again. My throat closes up. My Aunt Diana's name appears as the financial backer of the lawsuit. An email from Lila is attached as Exhibit A, a rambling, emotional missive claiming I had stolen her creative future and hoarded resources that rightfully belonged to the family unit. The demands are spelled out in cold, clinical legal language that makes my stomach churn. Immediate transfer of the property deed for 125 Willow Creek Lane to Lila Sterling. Continued mortgage payments by Cora Sterling for a period of 18 months to allow for business establishment. Reimbursement of $250,000 to Robert and Margaret Sterling for child-rearing costs and investment. A formal, written apology for damaging family trust and causing emotional distress. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely hold the papers. I stumble to the counter and dial my grandfather's number, my only anchor in this swirling vortex of betrayal. He answers on the first ring, as he always does. "They've gone too far this time, Cora," he says after I manage to choke out the story, his voice a low rumble of anger, hard as iron. "They've finally gone too far." I spend the next hour researching family law attorneys, my heart sinking with each click. Retainer fees start at $10,000, some reaching as high as $20,000. It's money I simply don't have after draining my savings for the down payment and closing costs. The reality of my situation settles over me like a heavy, suffocating blanket. I'm going to have to defend myself. That night, I sit alone in my beautiful new home, surrounded by boxes I no longer have the heart or the energy to unpack. They feel less like promises now and more like evidence in a case against me. Tears threaten, but they don't fall. In their place, something else, something harder and stronger, begins to take root in the pit of my stomach. Determination. They want my house? The house I spent 15 years saving for while they bankrolled Lila's series of failed ventures and artistic explorations? The home I earned through countless overtime shifts, skipped vacations, and the meticulous, unwavering discipline of my spreadsheets? Let them try. I stand up and walk to my bedroom window, looking out at the quiet, lamplit street below. A sense of profound, lonely clarity washes over me. This house is more than wood and nails. It's my achievement. It's my future. It's my line in the sand. They made their choice when they decided to attack the very thing I built to feel safe. Now I'll make mine to defend it. I spread my financial documents across my new dining room table, the one piece of furniture I'd allowed myself to splurge on. The morning sun casts long shadows between the neat stacks of bank statements, tax returns, and pay stubs. My laptop screen glows with an open spreadsheet, a digital tapestry of 15 years of my financial life, reduced to a grid of columns and formulas. The numbers tell a story my family has chosen to ignore, a story they are now trying to actively erase. Each document, each line item, is a memory. A faded pay stub from the daily grind, Dated a week before my 16th birthday. The wage, $5.25 an hour, plus tips split 3 ways. I can still smell the burnt espresso, feel the persistent ache in my feet after an 8-hour shift on the unforgiving tile floor. My mother's text from that night is seared into my brain. You're missing Lila's Sweet 16. You have no idea what this DJ cost. I remember scrolling through photos on a friend's phone between taking orders, seeing my sister in a custom-made silk dress, surrounded by floating lanterns and a towering chocolate fountain. The cost of that party, I'd calculated then, was roughly 3 months of my gross wages. My fingers traced down a column of receipts from Northwood Community College. Night classes in accounting and business management, taken after my day job. Textbooks bought used from upperclassmen, the careful budgeting of every meal to make tuition payments. My father's voice echoes from a phone call during that period, laced with faint disdain. An accounting certificate? Cora, it's not even a real degree. When are you going to do something impressive? The memory of my 18th birthday surfaces, not the quiet celebration I'd had with my grandfather, but the argument that followed it. What do you mean you won't co-sign the FAFSA forms? I'd asked, clutching the university application papers that felt like a ticket to another life. You're an adult now, my father had said, his tone dismissive, as if flicking a piece of lint off his suit jacket. It's time you learned to stand on your own 2 feet. A week later, I found a listing for a tiny studio apartment above a laundromat. For $100 a month, roaches included. It was the true start of my independence, a life built on my own terms, because I'd finally understood I had no other choice. Back in the present, my phone buzzes on the table. My mother's name flashes on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, already knowing the script. The message, when I listen to it later, is a masterpiece of passive aggression. Sweetheart, her voice quavers, we don't understand why you're being so difficult about this. We've always given you and Lila exactly what you needed to thrive. Why are you choosing money over your family? What you needed. The phrase hangs in the air. I pull up my old emails and find my father's response to my desperate plea for help with an emergency root canal 4 years ago. The pain had been blinding, the cost astronomical on my junior analyst salary. His reply was 2 words, figure it out. Below it, in my meticulously cross-referenced bank statements, is a record of a $2,000 transfer to Lila that same week, labeled Creative Supplies. My sister's Instagram feed tells its own story, a glossy chronicle of a life I couldn't imagine. Semesters abroad in Florence and Prague, funded by our parents under the guise of artistic immersion. Photos of her posing with canvases and supplies that cost more than my monthly rent. Meanwhile, my own student loan statements from the certificate program march endlessly onward, a debt of over $40,000 that I was paying off, dollar by painful dollar, completely alone. My father's latest email, which arrived this morning, is blunt. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Cora. We will not be made to look like fools. I delete it without responding. A new voicemail notification pops up. Aunt Diana this time. Her voice is sharp, spitting venom. You selfish, ungrateful girl, she rasps, after everything this family has done for you. A cold curiosity propels me. I spend an hour researching my aunt online. Public records are a treasure trove. I find foreclosure documents on a lavish condominium from 5 years ago, the same year she conveniently moved into my parents' guest house. The pieces click into place. She isn't just backing their lawsuit out of family loyalty, she's financially entangled with them, desperate to secure her own position. They're her safety net, and my house is now part of their portfolio. Another quick social media search reveals Lila's latest crisis. An eviction notice from her trendy creative studio apartment, posted 3 weeks ago in a tearful story. The timing aligns perfectly with the lawsuit. This isn't about her needing a home, it's about her losing the one my parents were funding. The doorbell rings, a sharp, sudden sound that makes me jump. Through the peephole, I see Grandpa Leo standing on my porch, a weathered cardboard box in his arms. Thought you might need these, he says, setting the box down on the dining room table. Inside are decades of family financial records he'd kept, meticulously organized in faded manila folders. Bank statements, old tax returns, loan agreements. They did the same thing to your cousin Ethan, he explains, settling into a kitchen chair as I pour him a coffee. When his auto shop finally started turning a profit, your father tried to claim he was owed for family seed money. Said it was an investment. My phone lights up with a text message. It's from Ethan himself, 10 minutes later. Heard about the lawsuit. They tried to take my shop when it finally got out of the red. Don't let them win. Call me if you need anything. A knock at the door an hour later reveals my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Finch, the same woman who sold me the house. She's holding a potted orchid. A little something to brighten the place up, she says warmly, her eyes kind. Welcome to the neighborhood, dear. Don't you worry about the drama. We've all got family. Her simple, unconditional acceptance is a balm to my frayed nerves. The support buoys me, strengthens me for the wave of attacks that follows in the coming days. A certified letter arrives threatening to place a lien on my property. Lila's Facebook posts become more dramatic, filled with photos of her looking wan and heartbroken, with captions about the cruelty of her heartless, materialistic sister. I get calls from my parents' country club friends, reciting lectures on family duty and respect for one's elders. Aunt Diana's silver sedan cruises past my house 3 times in one afternoon, her phone raised as if she's taking pictures. An hour after her last pass, my supervisor at work calls me into his office. Cora, we received an anonymous email expressing concern about your character and financial integrity. I'm obligated to ask if there's anything I should know. I spend my lunch break at the county courthouse, filing a motion to dismiss their lawsuit, using every scrap of legal knowledge I've gleaned from late nights spent researching online. The court clerk, a stern-looking woman with a fountain of gray hair, raises her eyebrows at my pro-SE filing. This is surprisingly thorough, she says, stamping the documents with a resounding thud. The preliminary hearing is set for next month. I go back to work and formally request unpaid leave, ignoring my boss's worried frown about personal distractions affecting performance. That evening, I sit on my new porch swing, a gift from Grandpa Leo that we assembled together. I watch the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and pink. The tranquil scene triggers a memory of being a teenager, walking this very street with my grandmother, admiring these solid, well-kept houses. I'd told her that one day, I would earn one for myself. You're dreaming too big, Cora, my mother had said later when she heard. Be realistic. Maybe I was, but I did it anyway. A young family walks past my house, their children laughing as they chase fireflies in the deepening twilight. I think about the locksmith who came yesterday to change the locks and the security system being installed next week. I'm not just protecting my house anymore. I'm fortifying my boundaries, building walls not of spite, but of self-preservation. They say blood is thicker than water. But I'm learning that some family ties aren't ties at all, they're chains. I'm learning that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stand firm, even when it breaks your own heart. And I'm learning that the price of true independence is sometimes steeper than you could ever imagine, but it is a price worth paying. I gather my documents from the porch table and head inside, leaving the porch light on. Not for them, but for the new connections I'm building, one quiet act of kindness at a time. The church bulletin from my parents' congregation lies crumpled on my kitchen counter, its elegant letterhead a stark contrast to the pile of legal mail it sits upon. 3 more prayer requests have been added this week, publicly expressing concern for Cora Sterling's wayward path and hardened heart toward her loving family. I add the bulletin to the growing file I've labeled harassment. My phone buzzes with another social media notification. Lila's latest Instagram story is a masterpiece of emotional theater. It's a video of her, eyes red and puffy, tearfully flipping through a childhood photo album. The caption reads, "Family means supporting each other's dreams, no matter what. My heart is broken. #family first, #betrayal." The timestamp shows it was posted at 3 a.m., prime time for maximum sympathy engagement from her followers. I turn away from the phone and pull up my financial tracking spreadsheet, the one I've maintained with unwavering discipline since my first real job washing dishes at a local place called Rose's Diner. I was 15, scrubbing burnt lasagna off pans until midnight while my classmates were at homecoming dances. The memory of my pruned fingers and the constant ache in my lower back is still vivid, as is the memory of Rose's gentle voice as she handed me my first paycheck. "You're building something, girl," she'd said. "Keep your records clean. They're your story." Each cell in the spreadsheet tells a part of that story. Wages: $6.25 per hour x 30 hours per week. Expenses: bus fare, savings. Northwood Community College tuition, payment number 3 of 12. Paid via dual income from retail and waitressing. First apartment deposit. For 100. For 100. Furnishings, second-hand futon. 40. Thrift store lamp, $5. I remember my mother's one and only visit to that apartment. "You really live like this?" she'd asked, her eyes sweeping over my carefully arranged, yet undeniably humble, belongings with a look of pity that felt worse than scorn. The spreadsheet continues, a testament to years of quiet, relentless progress. Monthly automatic transfers to my savings account, starting at a mere $50, growing to $200, then $500 as my certifications and experience led to better-paying jobs. Years of careful planning, of saying no to expensive dinners and weekend trips, of funneling every extra penny toward the singular dream of homeownership. A sharp knock at the door interrupts my review. Through the new security camera feed, a recent installation, courtesy of Grandpa Leo, I spot Mrs. Finch from 2 doors down, holding a paper bag. "Thought you might be too busy to make lunch," she says when I open the door, her smile crinkling the corners of her eyes. She hands me the bag, which is warm and smells of roasted chicken. "And my husband, Henry, is taking the 3 to 6 p.m. watch shift today." The neighbors. They've organized an informal surveillance rotation since Aunt Diana's silver sedan became a regular, menacing fixture on our street. Their quiet, unobtrusive support feels like a shield, a silent counter-narrative to the one my family is so loudly proclaiming. On Tuesday afternoon, a breaking news notification pops up from the Northwood Chronicle. Lila has given an exclusive interview. The headline reads, "Sister's Success Disputes Family Legacy." The article features a professionally shot photo of her, posed artistically in her now-empty former studio, surrounded by a few half-finished canvases. She speaks of her dream to create a community-focused healing arts cafe and how her sister's sudden and inexplicable selfishness has put that dream and her own stability in jeopardy. My phone rings almost immediately. It's Ethan. "Saw the article," he says without preamble. "They're really pulling out all the stops. By the way, I got those old account records you asked about. The family investment they claimed I owed them? Funny how the dollar amount matches the final payment on Aunt Diana's failed condo almost exactly. The automatic doors of the Whole Foods slide open on Thursday and I freeze. Standing by the organic produce, a mountain of kale in her cart, is Lila. Designer sunglasses are perched on her head like a tiara. It's too late to retreat. She's spotted me. Well, if it isn't the family trader," she announces, her voice loud enough for several nearby shoppers to turn and stare. I focus on selecting a few ripe tomatoes, my hands surprisingly steady. I keep my voice even. "Hello, Lila. You always thought you were better than us, didn't you?" she hisses, stepping closer, abandoning her cart. "With your precious spreadsheets and your boring, safe job. You have no idea what that house could be. It could be an amazing art cafe concept. People would love it." I finally meet her eyes, a deep well of resentment swirling in them. "And how would you handle the mortgage? The property taxes? The upkeep?" She waves a dismissive hand, a gesture I've seen my mother use 1,000 times. "Obviously, that part would still be your responsibility, since you're so good with all that money stuff. It's about leveraging our strengths." Her lip curls. "Unlike some of us who actually had the courage to pursue our passions instead of a paycheck." "Ma'am?" A store manager with a concerned expression has appeared at my elbow. "Is everything all right here?" Lila's voice rises dramatically, her face a mask of tragedy. "My own sister. Abandoning her family in their time of need. Can you believe it?" I abandon my cart, the tomatoes rolling gently to one side, and walk calmly toward the exit. Lila's performance continues behind me, a tirade for the benefit of the organic produce section. As I pass the manager, he catches my eye and gives a subtle, knowing nod. "We get it," his expression seems to say. "We all know what's really happening here." Back home, shaken but resolute, I spread out the documents Grandpa Leo delivered. They paint a stark, undeniable picture. My parents' financial records show Lila's $90,000 private art school loans paid in full. A $25,000 business loan from them for her failed pottery studio, which was never repaid. The deed to their own home, mortgage-free for over a decade. And then, buried deep in a folder of old emails he'd printed out, is the truth in black and white. An email from Aunt Diana to my mother, sent just after I got my promotion last year. "Time to teach Cora a lesson about family obligation," it reads, before she gets too independent and forgets who she owes. My hands shake as I place the email into a clear plastic sleeve for my court exhibits. The room spins slightly, the weight of 15 years of quiet slights and calculated injustices pressing down on me. I'm 5 years old again, standing in the kitchen as my mother takes my crayon drawing of our family off the refrigerator to make room for Lila's new watercolor painting. "Hers is more advanced, sweetie," she'd explained gently, but the message was clear. There was a finite amount of space, of approval, and I was not the priority. A gentle knock on the doorframe pulls me back to the present. Grandpa Leo enters without waiting for an invitation, carrying a weathered photo album. "Found these in the attic," he says, his voice soft. He settles into the chair beside me. "Your grandmother kept everything." He opens the album. The photos tell a different story than the one my parents and Lila promote. There's me at 15, proudly holding my first paycheck from Rose's Diner. Me with a stack of textbooks, beaming outside the community college. A collection of perfect attendance certificates from every job I've ever held. A photo from my certificate graduation, my grandmother beaming beside me, her arm wrapped tightly around my shoulders. "She saw you," Grandpa Leo says softly, his finger tracing the edge of the photograph. "She knew exactly what you were building, piece by piece. Those expensive textbooks that just showed up at the campus bookstore for you that one semester, the ones you thought the school had ordered by mistake? That was her." Tears I didn't know I was holding back finally blur my vision. Later that night, I stand before my bathroom mirror, practicing the statement I will make in court. The voice that emerges sounds stronger, clearer than I feel. I am not responsible for supporting adult family members who have consistently demonstrated an inability and unwillingness to support themselves. I straighten the lapels of my blazer, a classic navy one I'd bought on sale last year, its purchase recorded meticulously in my budget. On my desk, the evidence binders stand ready, a silent, powerful chorus of truth. Aunt Diana's silver sedan cruises past my house again, but this time, I don't flinch. Some sacrifices are meant to break you. But others, I'm learning, are the ones that temper you, strengthening you in ways you never thought possible. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to build are the ones we need the most to survive. I slip the small, faded photograph of my grandmother into my briefcase. In the picture, her eyes are twinkling with a fierce pride she rarely spoke aloud. She understood the price of independence. Now, it's my turn to prove I was worth her investment. Tomorrow, I will go to court and I will tell my truth. Tonight, I fortify my walls, not with brick and mortar, but with 15 years of carefully documented sacrifice and the quiet, unshakable strength of those who believe in earning your own way. The courthouse steps gleam in the bright morning sun. I adjust my grip on the worn leather document case, a graduation gift from my grandmother, now carrying the weight of 15 years of receipts, records, and resolve. Each step I take on the cool marble feels deliberate, grounding me in the present moment. The heavy glass doors reflect my image, a woman in a simple navy blazer, pressed slacks, and minimal jewelry. Professional. Prepared. It's a far cry from the nervous teenager who first came to this building to get her work papers, hands trembling with a mixture of hope and fear. Oh, perfect timing, a saccharine voice rings across the echoing lobby. My family is arranged in a coordinated tableau near the security checkpoint. They're all wearing matching white t-shirts under their sport coats and cardigans, emblazoned with the words, "Blood Before Business," in a bold, accusatory font. My mother is dabbing at carefully smudged mascara with a handkerchief, while my father's attorney, a man with slicked-back hair and an overly expensive suit, arranges a stack of papers with theatrical precision. Aunt Diana catches my eye, her lips curving into a familiar, condescending smirk. "Last chance to do the right thing and avoid embarrassing the family, dear," she says, her voice a low hiss. I keep walking, my sensible heels clicking a steady rhythm against the polished marble floor. The sound is my own heartbeat, regular and strong. The security guard gives me a brief, professional nod as I pass through the metal detector without a beep. I can feel the weight of their collective stare on my back, but I don't turn around. The courtroom itself feels smaller than I expected, paneled in dark wood that seems to absorb all sound, creating a bubble of focused, intimidating silence. I walk to the respondents' table and arrange my exhibits with the practiced efficiency of a seasoned analyst. Each binder is tabbed, each document color-coded and annotated. The methodology that earned me eye rolls and sighs at family dinners now serves as my armor. All rise. Judge Alhassan enters, a formidable woman with sharp, intelligent eyes that seem to miss nothing. Her quick assessment takes in both sides of the courtroom. Her gaze lingers for a fraction of a second on the matching t-shirts before settling on the stack of motions on her desk. "An interesting filing, Miss Sterling," she comments, her voice neutral as she scans the first page of my motion to dismiss. "Please proceed, counsel." My father's attorney rises, straightening his silk tie. "Your Honor, this case is not about money. It is about the erosion of familial obligation and traditional values. The Sterling family, as documented by standard USDA statistics, invested approximately $250,000 in the raising and betterment of their daughter, the respondent." "Objection," I state, my voice clear and steady. "Irrelevant. Standard costs associated with raising a child to the age of majority do not create a legal debt." "Sustained," Judge Alhassan says, her pen tapping once on her notepad. "Counselor, let's move on to your actual claims, shall we?" My mother takes the stand first, clutching her tissue like a lifeline. "We sacrificed everything for our girls," she begins, her voice breaking on cue. "Private art lessons, summer camps, the best schools we could afford. How can she abandon us now that she's successful? How can she turn her back on her own sister?" I keep my eyes focused on my notes as she weaves a narrative of my supposed selfishness, my cold career choices, my rejection of the family's artistic and community-oriented values. Each accusation lands softer than the last, buffered by the silent, factual truth contained in my binders. My father testifies next, his authoritative boardroom voice filling the space. "In our family, there is an understanding. The children who are successful have a duty to support their parents and siblings. It's a matter of honor." "And when was this agreement formalized?" Judge Alhassan interrupts, her gaze sharp. "Is there a contract?" "It's traditional," he stumbles, caught off guard. "It's implied." When it's my turn, I stand and approach the witness stand to cross-examine him. "Your Honor," I begin, my voice calm. I turn to my father. "Dad, did you provide similar support for Lila's education and career pursuits?" "Objection." Irrelevant to the matter at hand, their attorney snaps, jumping to his feet. "I'll allow it," Judge Alhassan says, waving him down. "It speaks to the pattern of behavior. Answer the question, Mr. Sterling." My father shifts uncomfortably in his seat. Lila needed a different kind of help. She was pursuing her artistic gifts. It required a more direct investment. "Please review Exhibit C," I say, placing the file before him. "These are your bank statements, showing tuition payments totaling over $90,000 for Lila's private fine arts degree, plus an additional $25,000 transfer for her failed pottery studio. Could you show me where a similar investment was made in my education?" He cannot. Lila's testimony is next, a torrent of tears and dramatic pronouncements. "The house would have been perfect for my healing art cafe," she sobs. "A place for the community to gather. I would have let her keep a room, of course. I'm not cruel. And the mortgage? Judge Alhassan asks, her tone deceptively mild. The property taxes, the insurance? Well, Cora is so good with all that money stuff, Lila says, waving a dismissive hand, a carbon copy of our mother's gesture. She would obviously handle that part. The judge's eyebrow rises a fraction of an inch. And what is your current employment status, Miss Sterling? I'm between projects, Lila sniffs. My art requires a certain amount of emotional space to flourish. Finally, it is my turn. I don't need to be emotional. I just need to be factual. I stand before the judge and I present my story, not in words, but in documents. I spread out 15 years of pay stubs, W-2s, rent receipts, utility bills, and community college transcripts. I began working at the age of 15, Your Honor, I say, my voice echoing in the quiet room. Every job is documented. Every dollar is accounted for. I walk her through the spreadsheets, showing my savings rate, my student loan payments, my methodical journey toward the down payment. And what was the total financial support you received from your parents after the age of 18? The judge asks, looking over the top of her glasses. None, Your Honor, I reply. As you can see from my bank statements, there were no deposits or financial gifts of any kind. She's twisting things. Aunt Diana bursts out from the gallery. This ungrateful, calculating girl. Silence. Judge Alhassan's voice cracks like a whip. One more outburst, and you will be removed. She studies my documentation for a long, silent moment, then turns her gaze directly to my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, let me ask you a hypothetical question. If both of your daughters were struggling financially, would you be making these demands of Ms. Sterling? The silence in the courtroom is heavy and absolute. It speaks volumes. I've heard enough, Judge Alhassan says, closing her folder with a decisive snap. There is a difference between family support and financial exploitation. This case lacks any legal merit whatsoever. Properties purchased independently through one's own documented labor and savings remain independent. Case dismissed with prejudice. Aunt Diana lets out an outraged screech that echoes off the marble as a bailiff calmly escorts her from the courtroom. Lila collapses into a sobbing heap on a bench in the hallway, but the court personnel step carefully around her prone form, their faces impassive. You'll regret choosing money over your family, my mother calls after me as I walk toward the exit. I pause at the grand courthouse doors, the bright sunlight streaming through the glass. Her words sting, but the immense weight that has been pressing down on my chest for months finally, miraculously lifts. Through the window, I spot Grandpa Leo's old Ford truck idling at the curb. His steady, quiet presence is a reminder that family, real family, builds you up instead of trying to tear you down for spare parts. You okay, kid? He asks as I climb into the passenger seat, the old vinyl cracked and familiar. I watch my biological family huddled on the courthouse steps, a defeated-looking group in their now ironic matching shirts, a bright, angry blur in the rearview mirror as we pull away. I think I say, taking a deep, clean breath of air, I think I finally am. Your grandmother would be so proud of you, he says softly, his hand patting my shoulder. She always said you had the strength to build your own path, even if you had to pave it yourself. The familiar streets of Northwood look different somehow, sharper and clearer, like the world after a cleansing rain. Each carefully earned mile brings me closer to home. My home, protected not by truth, by law, and by the quiet, formidable power of standing firm. In my briefcase, the small photograph of my grandmother seems to warm slightly in its leather pocket. She had understood the price of independence and the courage it takes to choose yourself. Some sacrifices, I realize, strengthen you even as they break your heart. And sometimes, the hardest boundaries become your strongest foundations. The security system chimes softly as I enter my home. My legally protected home. It's been 3 days since the courtroom victory, and already the quiet inside feels different. It's not peaceful, not yet, but it's fortified. My phone buzzes on the counter. A notification from a GoFundMe page. The title makes my stomach clench. My sister stole my future. Help an artist heal. The story Lila has fabricated beneath a photo of her looking tragically forlorn is a masterwork of fiction. After I supported her emotionally through her soulless corporate climb, my sister betrayed our family's trust, buying my dream home out from under me. Now I'm facing homelessness while she hoards her wealth in an empty house. Please help me raise funds to create my healing art cafe and find a new space to share my gift with the world. I screenshot the page, send it to the pro bono lawyer who has been advising me, and then silence all notifications from the app. The lies sting less than the calculated, expert manipulation. She knows exactly how to play the victim. Did you see the email? A text from Ethan appears. My cousin, usually a silent observer in family matters, has emerged as an unexpected and steadfast ally. The mass email to our entire extended family arrived this morning, sent from my father's account. It details my cruel betrayal of family values and selfish materialism, each paragraph carefully crafted to paint me as a cold-hearted monster and to isolate me from the wider family network. I saw it, I reply. Seems familiar? Painfully, he texts back. They did the same to me when my business finally took off. Called me ungrateful, demanded I repay their family investment. I just paid them to go away. I wish I'd fought back like you did. That night, the security system chirps again. Motion detected at the front door. Through the app on my phone, I watch a live feed of Aunt Diana's silver sedan creeping past my house for the third time since sundown. At midnight, the camera catches her walking up my driveway. A can of spray paint glints in the soft glow of my porch light. You ungrateful little. The rest of her words are lost as she seems to notice the small, dark lens of the camera aimed directly at her. The paint can disappears back into her designer handbag as she scurries away, but not before she leaves a bright, angry red streak across my new front door. The responding police officer is professional and efficient. We've got clear footage of her face, the car, the license plate, he says, reviewing the video on his tablet. Would you like to press charges for vandalism? I think of all the family dinners, the holiday gatherings, the complex, tangled web of loyalty and obligation that I've spent my life trying to navigate. Pressing charges feels like another battle. What I need is peace. I need to file for a restraining order, I say, the words feeling both heavy and liberating. The courthouse feels different this time. Where fear and uncertainty once lived, a quiet determination has taken root. The clerk who processes my paperwork recognizes the family names and raises an eyebrow. Judge Alhassan's courtroom again, she notes. She'll remember the context. The temporary order comes through immediately, backed by the officer's report and the crystal-clear security footage. Each signature I place on the forms feels like both a victory and a loss, a necessary act of protecting my future by formally severing my past. The support network I never knew I had continues to grow. Mrs. Finch brings over a letter from Mrs. Kim, our old neighbor from the house I grew up in. The letter details 20 years of observed family dynamics. Your father demanded family support from his own brother, too, before the cancer took him, she wrote. Your aunt has always been jealous of your mother's comfortable life. She uses money and obligation to control people. Grandpa Leo fills in more of the gaps as we work on his truck in my garage one Saturday, the smell of oil and old tools a comforting constant. Your grandmother set aside separate college money for both you girls in a trust, he says quietly, his hands steady as he tightens a bolt. Your parents dissolved the trust and redirected it. They called it reinvesting in Lila's unique artistic gift. That's why your grandmother left you that nest egg for the house separately in her will. She knew they couldn't be trusted. The permanent restraining order hearing arrives too quickly and not soon enough. The matching t-shirts are gone, replaced by somber, expensive-looking suits and practiced expressions of humility. Their new attorney speaks of reconciliation and misunderstanding, portraying me as vindictive and emotionally unbalanced. When it's my turn, I stand, my evidence organized with familiar precision. Your Honor, I say, I won't speak to their intentions. I'll let the facts speak for themselves. The security footage of the vandalism plays on the courtroom monitors. The police reports detail the incident at my workplace, where my parents claimed I was having a medical emergency to bypass security and confront me. I present the screenshots of the fraudulent GoFundMe page and the email campaign designed to slander me. Enough, Judge Al-Hassan interrupts, her voice firm. The pattern of harassment is clear and undeniable. Permanent restraining order granted, effective immediately. It will be expanded to include all forms of digital communication and third-party contact. Any violation will result in immediate and serious consequences. That evening, the Northwood Chronicle runs a small, factual story on its website. Family property lawsuit dismissed, restraining order granted in Sterling case. Within hours, Lila's GoFundMe page disappears, reported for fraud by dozens of anonymous donors. Messages begin to trickle in from extended family members, aunts, uncles, cousins I haven't spoken to in years. Quiet messages of support. Stories of similar pressures they had faced. Your cousin Naomi called. Grandpa Leo tells me over dinner that night. Says she heard what you did and she's damn proud of you. Says others are starting to talk now too. I watch him season his potatoes with methodical care, the same patient attention to detail he taught me in his garage all those years ago, rebuilding carburetors while sharing quiet life wisdom. Does it get easier? I ask, my voice softer than I intend. Choosing yourself? He sets down his fork and looks at me, his eyes clear and kind. Sometimes, Cora, the family you're born into isn't the one that's meant to last. Sometimes, family is what you build. Your grandmother knew that. Why do you think she left you all her tools? Later, I complete my nightly security routine. Doors locked, cameras active, system armed. The angry red paint is gone from the front door, scrubbed away with mineral spirits, but its ghost remains in my mind, a reminder of a boundary earned and now legally enforced. In my journal, the words flow more easily than they have in months. I protected what I earned, but I am mourning what never was. The family I wanted, the one of unconditional support and mutual respect, existed only in my hopes. The family I have now, the ones who are choosing truth over comfort, growth over control, they're the foundation for something real. My phone lights up with a text from Ethan. Dinner next week? Naomi and the kids want to meet that cool cousin of theirs who stood up to the machine. That new Italian place downtown? I smile, a genuine, unburdened smile. I type back, count me in. The security system chimes softly. All secure. Through the window, I watch the sunset paint my small, budding garden in gentle golds. My grandmother's rose bushes, which Grandpa and I transplanted from her yard last month, are blooming stubbornly against the fence. I'm learning that some things grow stronger when they are forced to root deeper, finding nourishment in unexpected soil. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but tonight, in this house that I earned and defended, I am anchored in my own truth. Some victories carry the weight of grief, but they also clear the ground for new growth, new connections, and a new, more honest definition of family. I turn off the lights, leaving one on for the porch, a habit learned from my grandmother. Not all traditions need to be broken. Some, like her quiet wisdom and resilient strength, become the foundation for something better. The morning sun streams through my kitchen windows, catching dust motes dancing in the air as I measure coffee grounds into the filter, 2 level scoops per cup, the way Grandpa Leo taught me. It's been a year since the restraining order, and my weekends have found a new, peaceful rhythm. Willow, my rescue mutt, half golden retriever, half pure, unadulterated chaos, according to the shelter, jingles her tags as she trots to the back door, her tail a happy metronome. She knows Mrs. Finch next door will be out tending her garden, ready with a pocketful of treats and a stream of gentle conversation. Just a minute, girl, I say, checking the security app on my phone out of habit more than necessity. The system is still active, a silent guardian, but I scaled back the notifications months ago. No more midnight alerts for every passing car, no more obsessive documentation of my surroundings. The cameras remain, but they're sentinels now, not constant reminders of a siege. The familiar, comforting smell of sawdust, engine oil, and fresh coffee greets me as I enter the garage. Grandpa Leo is already here, setting up the clamps and jigs for our Sunday project. We're building a dining room table, a sturdy, expansive one made of solid oak, big enough for the growing circle of people who actually want to be here. Morning, kiddo, he says without looking up, his focus absolute as he arranges the clamps with mathematical precision. Thought we'd finish the leg joints today. Perfect timing, I say, handing him his coffee, black with 2 sugars. Ethan and Naomi are bringing the kids over later. We can put them to work sanding. We work in a comfortable, practiced silence, the only sounds the scrape of the hand plane on wood and the low hum of the radio. Through the open garage door, I watch the neighborhood kids chase each other down the sidewalk, their laughter carrying on the breeze. Their parents used to hurry them along, casting nervous glances at my house back when the lawsuit made the local paper. Now they wave, letting their kids stop to pet Willow through the fence slats. Saw your father yesterday, Grandpa Leo says suddenly, not breaking his rhythm as he tests a joint's fit. At the hardware store. My hands stay steady on the piece of wood I'm holding. How did that go? He's aged 10 years, I'd say. Both of them have. He adjusts his grip on the plane, shaving a paper-thin curl of wood from the edge. Margaret was there too. She just kept looking at throw pillows, like they held the answers to all of life's questions. I remember the dozens of designer pillows on their perfect sofa, arranged just so. The way Lila would obsessively rearrange them when she was stressed, a pointless shuffling of aesthetics while I was in my room, tracking our family's dysfunctional finances in secret spreadsheets. Heard Lila is in Oregon now, I offer, my voice neutral. Some kind of artist collective on a farm. Running again, he says, shaking his head. And your Aunt Diana's not doing well either. Blood pressure's through the roof, according to the gossips at church. The wood grain beneath my fingers tells a clearer, more honest story than any gossip could. It shows the growth rings marking seasons of plenty and of want, the dark lines of stress, the imperfections that give it character. We shape it carefully, honoring its natural history while creating something new and beautiful and strong from it. Later, as the warm autumn sun filters through the leaves of the big oak in the backyard, my chosen family gathers for what has become our weekly tradition, the Sunday potluck. Ethan's kids shriek with laughter as they chase a tireless Willow across the lawn, while Naomi sets up a game of croquet. My coworker, Julia, who stood by me with unwavering loyalty through the worst of the lawsuit, arranges a bouquet of dahlias from her garden in a vase on the patio table. Hard to believe it's been over a year, she says, stepping back to admire her work. A year since I bought this house. The memories surface, but they've lost their sharp edges. The empty rooms that once echoed with possibility, then with threat, are now filled with purpose and warmth. My home office, where I work on projects that led to another promotion. The workshop in the garage, where Grandpa Leo teaches me patience and the value of a well-made thing. The garden, where Mrs. Finch shares her wisdom about more than just plants. Grandpa Leo rises, tapping his water glass with a spoon. A hush falls over the yard. To this home, he says, his voice clear and full of emotion. And to the woman who built it. Not just with lumber and nails, but with courage and truth. A chorus of Takora ripples through my chosen family, neighbors, friends, the cousins who chose connection over convenience. Even Willow barks her approval, her tail wagging furiously as the children sneak her bits of grilled hot dog under the table. That evening, after the last of the dishes are done and the leftovers have been packed up and sent home with everyone, I join Grandpa Leo on the porch swing. Willow sprawls at our feet, snoring softly, worn out from a full day of playing referee to the kids' chaotic soccer game. You didn't just protect your house, you know, he says quietly, looking out at the darkening street. You defended your worth. Through the living room window, I can see the dining room table we're building. It's still unfinished, but its solid, promising shape is already there. Like everything worthwhile, it's taking time, patience, and attention to detail. Some prices are worth paying for peace, I reply, leaning my head back against the swing. The first stars of the evening emerge in the deep blue sky. Inside, I can hear Julia and Naomi setting up a board game, their easy laughter drifting through the open screen door. Ethan is at my kitchen counter, patiently helping his youngest with her math homework. Mrs. Finch's lights glow warmly next door, her silhouette visible as she waters her evening primrose. My phone buzzes. It's a text from a young analyst I'm mentoring at work. She's finally leaving a financially abusive relationship and needs some advice on building her credit from scratch. You showed me it's possible to stand on your own, she writes. I think of that terrified woman who first walked into Judge Al-Hassan's courtroom, clutching a briefcase full of papers in desperate, lonely certainty. She's still here, of course, that core of steel that was forged in fire. But now she's surrounded by people who recognize its value, who add their own strength to the alloy, making it something stronger, more resilient. The security system chimes softly as I lock up for the night. All secure. The sound no longer triggers a jolt of anxiety. Instead, it's a gentle reminder of boundaries earned and kept, of a peace that has been fought for, protected, and now generously shared. Willow's head lifts at the sound of approaching footsteps. It's just the neighbor's teenager, coming to ask if she can walk her in the morning. Same time as usual, she calls from the sidewalk. We're still working on her leash manners. Perfect, I call back. Another small, ordinary thread in the tapestry of a normal life, a life woven from trust and consistency. Grandpa Leo squeezes my shoulder as he heads inside to claim his favorite armchair, the one we refinished together, which now has a permanent place in my living room. His tools live in my garage now, his wisdom in my daily choices. Inside, the board game is getting competitive. Outside, the crickets are tuning up for their nightly symphony. And here on my porch, in this quiet, sacred space between what was and what is, I breathe in the peace I have built. Some say family is here born too. But I've learned that it's who you choose to become, and more importantly, it's the people who choose to witness that becoming with love, with respect, and with unwavering support. Every laugh from my living room, every wave from a neighbor, every shared meal and quiet moment of understanding, these are the true measures of home. The stars will overhead, constant as truth, bright as possibility. Tomorrow will bring its own work, its own challenges, its own joys. But tonight, in this house I earned, in this life I have so carefully and lovingly constructed, I am exactly where I need to be.